These days you hear about recession everywhere. Let me clarify it for you. Let's talk recession.
Are we in a recession?
Does it even matter?
Recession.
Recession's a recession.
Says a recession is
Certainly a possibility.
President Biden says there's no recession.
It's not like anything we've ever seen before.
Federal Reserve just raised rates again.
Inflation is at 41-year highs.
Let's start with some basic knowledge about inflation before we dive in. So what is inflation and what does it mean for the average Joe? When the price of products and services increase, but our wages don't follow it, we call that inflation. Even more simply, your money is worth less. Inflation is not in all cases a bad thing, and it is also natural in any economy, so just because of it we don't ring the recession bell. However, if this is a sustained, continuous process, then we have to pay attention to the other factors, which by adding up, could really result in a recession period. Recession happens when inflation is high, employment rate is low, and/or there is a negative foresight in the stock market, devaluating companies. This most of the times can be predicted since a recession based on numbers and data, and we already have tons of it. You have probably lived through a few recessions already and probably came out unharmed from most of them. Recessions generally affects most of the people, but it is always different that who is affected and by how. Last time, in 2008, people with large debts and homeowners took the hit most seriously because that recession was based on the financial crisis originated from predatory lending and high risk taking. By the kind of the recession, you can mostly predict if you will be affected and how. For example, in 2008, if you had an average or even above average income and you bought 5 houses and a sports car, then you may have already felt that something is not right and there will be consequences, but the bank gave you a nice big credit and offered loans for a 6th house anyway, this time with a pool, a double garage for that SUV you've been wanting. So why worry? They know what they are doing. Turned out they did not, and it caused a financial breakdown. But back to the situation that is happening as we speak. This time, it's not the banks or the Wall Street guys, but it's Putin and Russia. Let's take a dive into what could cause this recession. In the first place, COVID made the bed for the recession in 2020 by closing down most of the world. This caused financial and logistical issues, layoffs, shortages, and most importantly, uncertainty around the globe. And if there is one that the stock market hates, it is uncertainty. After the first months of COVID, the stock market kind of calmed down, but the shortages and financial issues was still on the table and are still present today. Years after the pandemic, just as it was fading out our lives, Putin, the president of Russia, announced that as a special military operation they are invading Ukraine, one of the largest countries in the EU. As everyone else calls it, the war induced a chain reaction and the just recovering economy took another hit. This time it was shortages and record inflation, alongside with fear and uncertainty too. I talked about it in my previous video, so I am not going too deep this time, but Europe's economy is kind of based on Russian cheap energy and commodities, which due to sanctions against Russia is not a real option anymore. The deficit of Russian energy makes other option more valuable, which drives up the price, making everything that has to be produced, shipped, or sold at a store more expensive. If that is not enough, the fear of the war devalues the Eurozone currencies, which is only good for the US import. So, since everything has to be sold for more than it used to, everyone's wage should be raised, right? Well, yes, but in most places this is not the case, resulting weaker buying power in a weaker economy, making it even more unstable. These combined can result recession, and yes, we are in a recession right now, even if the White House changes its definition.
If things are going so great though, then why is it the White House officials are trying to redefine recession?
No, we're not redefining recession.
If we all understand a recession to be 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth in a row, and then you have White House officials come up here to say, no, that's not what a recession is. It's something else. How is that not redefining recession?
Because that's not the definition. That is not the definition.
Brian Deese said in 2008, of course, economists have a technical definition, which is of a recession, which is 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth.
I can tell you this.
Yesterday he said 2 negative quarters of GDP growth is not the technical definition of a recession.
It is
What
not.
changed?
It is not.
Why did he say that?
How can we prepare for a recession? Recessions, as most of the financial problems, are affecting mostly the poor and the rich. You may ask now, why the rich? They get away with these things always, don't they? Let's start with the rich. We are probably more familiar with the poor man's problems anyway. Rich people are affected too, just differently. There is a saying that a recession is a wealthy man's garage sale, and it is true as ever. Rich people may lose some money with their companies, after which they apply for all the tax reliefs and tax breaks the Fed offers, maybe fire some people and cry on losses after they grab the record bonuses of theirs. In the end, they do not lose as much if they know what they are doing. In case they have significant cash reserves, then it basically is sale for with all the not-so-lucky bankrupt companies. Buy them up, sell them in pieces for more, works every time. So if you are rich, the advice is maybe postpone your large developments, wait a bit, and find a company who already has the technology or the assets and is trouble, then buy them for cents on the dollar. This is also true for low to median class income housing and other real estate. Why low to median income? Because the wealthy only gets wealthier in the end, so the luxury market will remain strong. These all happened before exactly like this. Alright, but not everyone is a businessman with large cash reserves. What can the average man do? First of all, don't panic, and maybe don't buy needless things. Cut a bit on your expenses, and by this I don't mean not to eat, maybe just skip that new Air Jordan you've been wanting. Save some money on gas if you can, take the bus, cook your own meals and don't go clubbing, invite over some friends instead, order that Amazon package with the standard delivery, your new electric toothbrush can wait a day or two. Yes, this way you will be part of the problem, but it is not the average Joe's task to solve this. You are for yourself and your family. If you came for some complex solution, I am sorry to disappoint. This video is about simplicity, and these are the simplest things anyone can do. Don't worry, there will be a video about passive income soon. Stay tuned and subscribe for that. When will the recession start? Actually, recessions do not have an exact start date since the signs are there months in advance. Finance guys and banks know this exactly and have already planned this out. Based on this, we can say we are already in recession, but the hard part is yet to come. This is just the prelude. When will the recession end? Since the main factor is the war between Russia and Ukraine, it is hard to tell when it will end. Most probably the effects of this will only strengthen until the war is over and not by demolishing countries. If the war ended next week, we still would have a hard 2 years ahead of us. The recession period usually lasts about a year, based on historic data, but the recovery is longer, takes about 2 to 3 years in most cases. What's next? Well, the only thing we can do for now is not spend like crazy and brace ourselves for a harder period. I hope I could explain to you guys, and now you have a better understanding about what's happening around us. If you liked this video, please consider subscribing so we can keep making them. Thank you.